Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at Loveworld USA News. I'm Joel Richard, and first, a quick look at the top stories this evening. President Trump and Netanyahu unveil Gaza ceasefire blueprint, Hamas reviewing terms. President Trump to attend historic gathering of U.S. military commanders at Quantico. And Jeffries previews Trump meeting with congressional leaders on shutdown talks. Michigan church attack leaves 4 dead. Suspect ID'd as ex-Marine Thomas Jacob Sanford. And the Trump administration invests $625 million to strengthen U.S. coal industry. And now to the news. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced they have agreed on a 20-point plan to end the war in Gaza and set up post-war governance for the territory. The proposal has been presented to Hamas, which an official said is reviewing it in good faith, though it remains unclear whether the group will accept the terms. Now, according to the outline, fighting would stop immediately once both sides accept the deal. All remaining hostages would be released by Hamas within 72 hours of Israel's acceptance, and no mass displacement from Gaza would be required under the plan. Now, the framework also envisions a temporary governing board for Gaza, headed by Trump and including former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. The White House says the approach is meant to stabilize the territory and oversee reconstruction while longer-term arrangements are negotiated. President Trump said the United States would give Israel full backing to take steps to defeat Hamas if the group rejects the proposal. With the plan now in Hamas's hands, the next move and whether a ceasefire can begin hinges on the group's response. Let's take a look.
Big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. Things that have been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. We're going to, at least we're at a minimum very, very close, and I think we're beyond very close. Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas, but I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. And again, we're not quite finished. We have to get Hamas, but I think they're going to be able to do that. So now it's time for Hamas to accept the terms of the plan that we've put forward today.
But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done.
In other news, President Donald Trump will attend an unprecedented meeting of nearly 800 U.S. generals and flag officers in Quantico, Virginia on Tuesday. The event, ordered by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, brings together nearly all of America's top military leaders in one location, marking one of the largest high-level gatherings in U.S. history. Now, President Trump said the purpose of the meeting is to highlight military strength and morale. The logistics and security requirements of the event are significant, with Secret Service overseeing protective measures due to the president's attendance. Defense officials say the gathering is intended to promote unity and focus among the nation's top officers, though speculation has circulated that it may also be used to announce personnel cuts or force structure changes. Pete Hegseth has previously stated his intention to reduce the General Officer Corps by 20%, having already removed several senior officials since assuming leadership of the Pentagon. Reports indicate the meeting may also address U.S. posture abroad, particularly in Europe and the Middle East, with an emphasis on shifting resources toward homeland defense. The meeting comes just days after President Trump signed an executive order directing military and law enforcement agencies to step up efforts against domestic terrorism and political violence. At the president's direction, Pete Hegseth has also deployed 200 federalized National Guard troops in Oregon to protect immigration enforcement operations amid ongoing protests. Let's take a look.
The meeting comes on the backdrop of troop deployment in Portland, following Trump's executive order allowing military and law enforcement capabilities to be used against what he called domestic terrorism and organized political violence. In a post on Truth Social, Trump vowed to make crime illegal again. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete.
This just in today, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has said that Democrats will approach President Donald Trump's meeting with bipartisan congressional leadership as a good faith negotiation to avert a possible government shutdown. The meeting comes as Congress faces a deadline to pass a funding bill. Jeffries emphasized that Democrats are focused on extending certain Affordable Care Act tax credits set to expire, while Republicans, on the other hand, are seeking broader reforms to lower costs and also reduce federal spending. The dispute over health care funding has emerged as one of the central issues in the negotiations. Speaking to reporters, Hakeem Jeffries said his party is determined to turn things around and accused Republicans of undermining health care. He added that Democrats will press President Trump to support their push to continue taxpayer subsidies tied to the ACA. Republicans, however, argue that continued subsidies contribute to rising costs and limit alternatives to Obamacare. The president has indicated he is committed to finding a solution that prevents a shutdown while also pushing for long-term reforms to reduce the federal government's role in health care. Watch this.
We met with the president for the first time since all of these issues started, even though we have requested repeated meetings with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, and the president. We have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through rescissions and through impoundment, as well as pocket rescissions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill. Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before. When I was leader, we negotiated 4 times with Republicans, and we never had a shutdown.
In other news tonight, a Sunday service at a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints turned into terror when a gunman rammed a pickup into the building, set it ablaze, and opened fire on congregants, killing 4 people and injuring 8. Police have identified the shooter as Thomas Jacob Sanford, 40-year-old of nearby Burton. He exchanged gunfire with responding officers and was killed at the scene. By today, Grand Blanc police said all victims had been accounted for. 7 wounded were in stable condition and 1 remained in critical condition. The FBI is leading the probe and is treating the incident as an act of targeted violence while investigators work to determine a motive. Acting Special Agent in Charge, Ruben Coleman, said teams have conducted more than 100 interviews and processed a sprawling crime scene through the night. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives said 4 improvised explosive devices constructed from consumer fireworks and smoke canisters were found in Sanford's truck. Just separately, a 21-year-old was taken into custody after driving through a nearby barricade. Police have not linked that arrest to the attack. Grand Blanc Police Chief William Ranier said Sanford, a Marine veteran, had prior arrests including burglary and operating while intoxicated. Witnesses described the moment worshippers initially rushed to the aid of the crash driver before realizing he was armed and firing. Governor Gretchen Whitmer urged restraint as speculation swirled online, calling heated rhetoric unhelpful and dangerous, while confirming she had spoken with President Donald Trump, who offered condolences. Church leaders called violence tragic and asked for prayer and support for victims and their families as federal, state, and local agencies continue the investigation. Watch this.
A deadly shooting at a Michigan church where hundreds of people were worshiping.
We have an active shooter at the church, and PD's on scene saying the building is also on fire.
During Sunday morning worship, police say the gunman drove his pickup into the front doors of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints and opened fire with an assault rifle. Police say he then set the building on fire.
I have people trapped in the building. Repeat. People trapped in the building.
The gunman, identified as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford, was later killed during a shootout with police in the parking lot.
We'll be back with more news after this break.
Pastor Chris, in 1 Billion Homes Project, is all about making sure the voice of our man of God, Pastor Chris Oyakalomi, arrives exactly when someone needs it the most. It's a global campaign to saturate the world with the gospel of our Lord Jesus like never before.
The gospel is going to go into places that it never was before, into disciplines and areas that it never was before, and establish a higher way of life.
Make a global impact today with your sponsorship of Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. For every home you sponsor, you send the gospel where it's never gone. You become the reason someone receives life, a second chance, and finds Jesus. Through the dynamic Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project, we've been able to expand our global mission, touching more souls, more regions, and producing a wave of powerful testimonies from people whose lives have been forever changed. Your financial support as a Loveworld USA partner is not just generous, it's supernatural power for global impact. Let's keep sending the gospel into every home through the Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. Sign up today and sponsor any of the following categories.
It's time for you to give the right sacrifice, the right seed, because it's time for you to get the right harvest.
You can sponsor Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project by calling or going on our website now. Sign up to be Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project partner today. God bless you.
President Donald Trump has announced that his administration will impose a 100% tariff on movies produced outside the United States. The move, unveiled in a social media post, is aimed at protecting the American film industry from what he described as unfair foreign competition. In his statement, the president said the U.S. movie industry has been stolen by other countries. Our movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries, just like stealing candy from a baby. The tariff will apply to all foreign-produced films distributed in the American market. The Trump administration has repeatedly taken action against industries it says have been undermined by outsourcing and overseas production. Officials argue that tariffs will encourage domestic investment, safeguard jobs, and restore competitiveness in key cultural and economic sectors. President Trump also criticized California Governor Gavin Newsom in his remarks, claiming that Hollywood has been hard hit by the increasing number of films produced abroad. The new tariffs are expected to reshape the U.S. entertainment market as studios weigh the cost of relying on foreign production. Let's take a look.
Posting on Truth Social, he's saying our movie-making business has been stolen from the U.S. by other countries. He goes on to say, quote, California, with its weak and incompetent governor, has been particularly hard hit. Therefore, in order to solve this long-time, never-ending problem, I will be imposing a 100% tariff on any and all movies that are made outside of the U.S.
In other news, the Trump administration announced today a $625 million investment to support America's coal industry, with the goal of keeping plants open, lowering energy costs, and modernizing infrastructure. U.S. Energy Secretary Christopher Wright said the funding will help ensure coal continues to provide about 15% to 16% of the nation's electricity, while supporting U.S. reindustrialization and competitiveness in artificial intelligence. The package includes $350 million to modernize coal plants, $175 million to expand affordable energy access in rural areas, and $50 million to improve wastewater systems and extend plant lifespans, $25 million to enable dual-fuel operations, and another $25 million to maintain efficiency when plants run on natural gas. Officials say that these investments will make coal facilities more reliable while helping contain energy costs. Wright emphasized coal's importance to U.S. industry, noting its role in steel and cement production as well as in powering the nation's energy grid. He argued that coal has faced unfair political opposition in recent years, but remains critical for industrial strength and energy security. He also said the administration aims to improve environmental controls to ensure plants operate cleaner and better. The move reflects President Donald Trump's continued efforts to reverse policies from the Obama and Biden years that sought to limit coal use. Administration officials argue coal remains a vital resource for U.S. industry and economic growth, despite declining production in recent years. Wright said the new investments are designed to secure coal's role in America's energy mix for decades to come. Let's take a look.
Fashion with the Chardonnay set in San Francisco, Boulder, Colorado, and New York City, where I just was at Climate Week. But it's critical to America's industrial might, not just for electricity, as you mentioned. It's our third largest source of electricity after natural gas and nuclear. But we also use it. It's the backbone of steel production. It's critical for cement production. Coal just makes the world go round. And they've tried to strangle it, particularly the Biden administration, starting with the Obama administration. But we need the coal industry. We're stopping the strangulation. We're going to provide some funding to upgrade existing coal plants, keep them open, even add some pollution control so they run cleaner and better. But coal's got a long future. As long as the lives of anyone alive today, let's stop pretending it's going away or stop wishing it was going away. It's critical to our country.
On the business front, games publisher Electronic Arts has agreed to be acquired for $55 billion by an investor consortium led by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, alongside a firm managed by Jared Kushner and private equity giant Silver Lake Partners. EA shareholders will receive $210 per share in cash, the company said. The takeover is the largest private equity-funded buyout on record, eclipsing the $32 billion purchase of Texas utility TXU in 2007. PIF, already EA's largest insider shareholder, will roll over its existing 9.9% stake into the new ownership structure. The deal underscores Saudi Arabia's sweeping push into video games via its Savvy Gaming Group, following prior stakes in major publishers and acquisitions of ESL, Faceit, and Scopely. Now, for Silver Lake, the move extends a long-running media and technology portfolio, while the Kushner-managed vehicle adds another high-profile investment alongside a consortium. Closing is subject to customary conditions, including shareholder and regulatory approvals, and could draw additional scrutiny, giving foreign investments in a prominent U.S. game publisher. The companies did not disclose a targeted completion date. Watch this.
Video game developer Electronic Arts has agreed to sell itself to a group of private investors in a deal that values the company at $55 billion, making it the largest leveraged buyout in history. The maker of Battlefield and Madden NFL is being bought by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, Jared Kushner's affinity partners, and private equity firm Silver Lake, the company said Monday. The deal for Electronic Arts underscores how deep-pocketed investors are betting on the enduring value of blockbuster game franchises as the industry recovers from a prolonged downturn. It also stands as a watershed moment in the market for leveraged buyouts, even though some of the biggest such buyouts in the past have ended disastrously. The previous LBO record holder, the $45 billion takeover of Texas utility TXU Energy in 2007 by a consortium of firms, including Goldman Sachs, went bankrupt in 2014, while Toys R Us went bankrupt in 2017, about a dozen years after it went private. Monday's takeover offer comes at a crucial time for Electronic Arts, which is gearing up to launch the much-awaited Battlefield 6 in an industry where gamers stick to proven and recognizable titles. The company's shares jumped about 5% in Monday morning trading.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more news after this break.
It's easy to set up, quick to start, and packed with value. Smarter streaming starts here with the Alpha TV Stick. Just plug and stream anytime, anywhere. Discover a curated lineup of content designed to inspire, live broadcasts and global events, inspirational films and series, children's programming, healing and teaching sessions, all on demand.
With millions of downloads worldwide, the Alpha TV app is transforming lives across the globe. And now, we're on a mission to reach 1 billion downloads of the Alpha TV app, and you can be part of it. Join the global wave with 1 billion Alpha TV app downloads worldwide. Bring the higher life into every home. Order your Alpha TV Stick today and experience smarter streaming. Alpha, the higher life is here.
Welcome back. And now on the international front, Moldova's pro-Western Party of Action and Solidarity secured a decisive parliamentary majority in weekend elections, defeating pro-Russian rivals in a vote widely cast as a choice between deeper European integration and renewed influence from Moscow. With nearly all precincts reporting today, PAS captured about 50.1% of the vote, projected to translate into roughly 55 of 101 seats, while the pro-Russia patriotic electoral bloc took 24.2%, followed by the Alternativa bloc and other smaller parties. European leaders quickly hailed the result as a reaffirmation of Moldova's EU trajectory after the country gained candidate status in 2022 and opened accession talks last year. You made your choice clear: Europe, democracy, freedom. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen posted on X. President Maya Sandu, who founded PAS, called the mandate a strong endorsement of EU accession and vowed the victory would benefit all citizens. PAS leader Igor Grosu framed the contest as a final battle for the future, accusing Russia of waging a hybrid war that included disinformation, cyber attacks, and attempted vote buying, allegations Moscow denies. Election day saw bomb threats at overseas polling sites, cyber incidents targeting electoral systems, and several arrests linked to suspected post-vote unrest. Pro-Russia figure and former President Igor Dodon alleged interference by PAS without presenting evidence and urged supporters to protest. Now, following parliamentary elections, the president nominates a prime minister, likely incumbent during Roussillon, to form a government for approval by the new legislator. Analysts say a PAS majority spares Moldova an unwieldy coalition and could accelerate reforms tied to EU entry, even as the country remains exposed to regional pressures from Russia's war in neighboring Ukraine. Voter turnout was 52.1%, including 280,000 ballots cast abroad. Watch this.
Moldova's pro-European Union ruling party on Monday won a resounding victory over its Russian-leaning rival in a key parliamentary election. With nearly all votes counted, the Party of Action and Solidarity won just over 50%, versus about 24% for the Patriotic Bloc. The results come as a relief for the government as it seeks to stay out of Moscow's orbit. And PAS leader Igor Grosu thanked voters Sunday evening after polling stations closed.
We thank everyone who went to the polling stations and responded to our call to participate in the elections. This is a very important decision for the Republic of Moldova.
Polls leading up to the election put PAS and Patriotic Bloc neck and neck, with neither seen likely to get close to a majority. Now, the near-final tally by Moldova's Electoral Commission allows the government to push for its goal of EU membership by 2030. The former Soviet republic of 2.4 million people has long vacillated between Russia and Europe. The build-up to the election was marred by accusations of foul play on both sides up to and on the day of polling. President Maya Sandu's government warned Moldovans that Russia had attempted to sway the vote through widespread disinformation and vote buying, which Moscow has denied. In the days leading up to the vote, election officials barred two pro-Russian parties from the ballot amid allegations of illegal financing. On Sunday, Patriotic Bloc co-leader Igor Dodon called for protests the next day in front of Parliament. He claimed, without providing evidence, that Sandu was planning to annul the vote. Authorities will watch closely to see if Dodon follows through on the threat.
In other news, very staring, President Andrei Rajoelina dissolved his government today after 3 days of youth-led demonstrations over crippling water and electricity shortages spiraled into the most serious challenge to his rule in years. The UN Human Rights Office said at least 22 people have been killed and more than 100 injured amid clashes, looting, and a heavy security response. Madagascar's foreign ministry dismissed the toll as rumor-based. The protests erupted over rolling blackouts and dry taps that residents say can last 12 hours or more, then broadened into anger at perceived government failure. Demonstrators, many organized online and borrowing tactics and symbols from recent Gen Z movements in Kenya and Nepal, attempted to march on central Antananarivo today before police dispersed crowds with tear gas under a dusk to dawn curfew. In a televised address, Rajoelina struck a conciliatory tone, saying he heard the call and felt the pain, apologizing if officials had fallen short and pledging support for businesses hit by looting. The former coup leader, who first seized power in 2009 and won a disputed 2023 election, framed the cabinet dismissal as a reset aimed at restoring order and addressing shortages. Authorities say a new government will be named quickly, even as right groups press for accountability over the debts and opposition figures test the streets. Now, with curfews in place and tensions high, the showdown will hinge on whether fresh appointments and concrete fixes to power and water services can cool public anger or fuel a protest movement that is growing more organized by the day. Let's take a look.
Thousands of people returned to the streets of Madagascar's capital on Monday for a third round of youth-led protests over water and power cuts. Many are calling for the government's resignation. Inspired by the so-called Gen Z protests in Kenya and Nepal, the demonstrations are the largest Madagascar has seen in years, and the most serious challenge President Andry Rajoelina has faced since his re-election in 2023. Authorities declared a dusk-to-dawn curfew on Thursday after protests in the capital, Antananarivo, turned violent. The latest protests came after Rajoelina said on Sunday he would thoroughly review and reform the governance in the country.
Just before we end the news, let's have a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news tonight, let's have a quick recap of the top headlines. President Trump and Netanyahu unveil Gaza ceasefire blueprint. Hamas reviewing terms. President Trump to attend historic gathering of U.S. military commanders at Quantico. And Jeffries previews Trump meeting with congressional leaders on shutdown talks. Michigan church attack leaves 4 dead. Suspect ID'd as ex-Marine Thomas Jacob Sanford. Trump administration invests $625 million to strengthen U.S. coal industry. And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I am Joel Richards, signing off. Good night, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.